Hi everyone, we're going to be revising CPUs today and we're going to be focusing on two main areas, the FD cycle and all the registers that go with it, as well as CPU components. The internals of a computer can be simplified in this diagram. You have RAM, which is used to store programs as they're running and any temporary data that they're using. We have storage where things are stored more permanently, and we obviously have peripheral devices and other parts of the computer. Each of those are connected to the CPU directly using a bus, and the bus is what's used to send data to and from, or messages to and from, the CPU. Now the job of the CPU is to run instructions. That's its primary purpose. And every CPU will have a set of instructions known as the instruction set of which it can do. These will be things like adding, subtracting, branching, and all those kind of instructions. All those instructions will be stored in binary because everything inside the computer will be binary. And when we want to get an instruction, we have to fetch it from RAM into the CPU. So on the diagram you have at the moment, you can see there is an instruction. Now, if I wanted to run that instruction, okay, so see it's done in binary already. If I want to run that instructions, it has to be sent down the bus to the CPU. And that process is known as a fetch. So as you can see, the instruction's gone from RAM to CPU, and that's what we know as a fetch. So the CPU is broken down into components, and the three main components you need to know for GCSE are the ALU, the arithmetic logic units, the control units, the CU, and registers. We're going to start off focusing on the registers and then seeing how they work with the fetch, decode, execute cycle, and then we're going to finish off this video with a revision on ALU and CU. Storage devices are permanent storage. What this means is when you switch the computer off, anything inside the storage devices is not lost, okay, it stays there. So when you have files or programs or even the operating system, they are stored permanently inside the storage device. Now, before we can use any of that data, before we can use those files that are stored in storage, before we can use those programs or even the operating system, we must load it into RAM. The reason for this is that RAM is a lot faster than storage devices. So if we try to run something directly off storage devices, it would just run incredibly slow. So we'd have to wait for every single individual instruction to be fetched from storage to the CPU, and that delay would mean the CPU would be hanging around doing absolutely nothing for a long period of time. So summarizing, storage devices are much slower than RAM, and this is the reason we have to have RAM in order to keep the speed of the computer fast. Now it's time to pause the video. You need to make some flashcards which will show the following. Having the diagram on this screen, I think this diagram is very important for your notes. Explain what a bus is. Explain the purpose of storage, RAM and CPU. And finally, why do we have RAM in the first place? Why do we use RAM instead of using storage directly? So pause the video now and have a go at creating those flashcards.